Good evening, hockey fans, and welcome to another episode of Pod Snipe Celly. My name is Dan Bradley. Alongside me is Joel Fernino. Joel, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Hello! I'm good. I am good. It was a good Super Bowl weekend. How about yours? Oh,
It was
yours might.
fantastic.
Oh, okay. Well, I
Yeah,
guess
well,
I thought you were gonna have more depressing feelings there. you
you
are in
know,
Cincinnati.
I am in Cincinnati, and that's part of what made it so cool. Was I was in a Cincinnati bar for the game. Um,
I'm sure
we
drink
got
sales skyrocketed as soon as that score went final.
maybe, although the bar did kind of clear out pretty quick after that, so there was that.
Interesting.
Yeah, a lot of people just wanting to get home, so can't say I blame them. But it was absolutely packed. We showed up at the bar about 2.5 hours before kickoff, and there was not a single seat available in the place. We kind of hovered around the actual bar area and managed to grab a couple chairs as people had left. But I venture guess there was probably 350 to 400 people in that bar. I mean, it was absolutely packed.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
that's. I mean, and rightfully so. It was a fun game though. I mean, there was some times where it got a little stale. I would say a little bit of the second quarter and parts of the third quarter, but had an exciting ending. I was pulling for Cincinnati, but I also love Matt Stafford, so I was like, that's awesome. And Aaron Donald too. Like that was fun to see him get it, and basically gave Cooper Kupp probably the best wide receiver season of all time.
absolutely. He had the triple crown in the regular season, the Super Bowl win, the Super
And the
Bowl
MVP.
MVP. So really a great showing all the way around for Cooper Kupp. Not to mention the halftime show too. Like that
Oh, the
was
halftime show was
phenomenal.
in the argument for top 5 for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Easily.
I have like just from in my lifetime Prince at number one, and that's probably 1A, 1B right there. Is
Fun
about where it's
fact
at.
or quiz: what Super Bowl did he play in?
It was in Miami. I don't know the number, but it was the Colts and the Bears.
Yes, it was.
So
it was the
I
Bears
do
one.
remember that.
I
And
remember that was
in
my
the
first.
in the rain, and he asks the Tex before he walks out on stage, "Can we make it rain more?" Before coming out to do Purple Rain, which just it's so cool, man, so cool. Getting back to hockey, though, we have a loaded show tonight. A lot of things to talk about, but one of the first ones we want to talk about is Tuukka Rask. Rask retiring last week, ending his NHL career.
Yeah.
Got a cup, got a Vezina. Is Tuukka Rask a Hall of Fame lock? Now, Joel, you and I have kind of gone at it on this one. I think he's a lock. Your argument is that he's not necessarily a lock, but you think that he's going to end up in the Hall. Is that kind of correct?
Yes, that is accurate. I remember your tweet going out. He's a lock. I kind of said slow your roll a little bit. Now, I'm going to preface this now so I don't have people bitching at me on Twitter. Does he get into the Hall of Fame? Yeah, probably. But I don't think it's the surefire, unanimous, like first ballot. Yeah, he's in right now. Like I don't know. I don't think so. But I do think he will get in, most likely.
I can see the argument because there are a lot of good goaltenders who are going to go in from the era that Rask played in. Like you're going to have Fleury, you're going to have Henrik Lundqvist, you probably maybe might have Corey Crawford in that mix.
That was going to be one of my arguments. Like I looked at the numbers, and I remember one of your things was he is third overall or third all time in save percentage.
Yeah, so let me just read off the
All
numbers here with where they're at on the overall rankings. Tuukka Rask 33rd on the all-time wins list with 308. He is 27th, tied for 26th on the shutouts list with 52. He is third all-time in save percentage at 921, and he is 12th all-time in goals against at 228. But if you limit that to goaltenders who played at least 400 games, he jumps up into the top 10 and is then at number 9 overall all-time in save percentage. Looking around at the rest of his resume, Cup champion in 2011, Vezina Trophy in 2014, 3-time All-Star, Jennings Trophy winner, IIHF bronze medal, and the best goaltender. That was back in 2006. Finnish Ice Hockey Player of the Year in 2013, Winter Olympic bronze. in 2014. So as I look at that resume, that to me is that's a resume that gets in. And it's not just the thing with the Hockey Hall of Fame is it's not just limited to NHL work. It is the game as a whole. I look at what Rask has done with the emergence of Finnish goaltenders, and you look at guys like him and Kari Lehtinen, guys who really helped change that European style of goaltending, bring it to the NHL and change the game just from a building aspect in that regard. Pekka Rinne, another one that you can add to that list as well. For me, those guys are locks. They deserve to be in, and Tuukka Rask is kind of head and shoulders above those other two. I think he's a lock. I think he gets in on his first ballot. We already have a couple of comments as well. Joey, in my opinion,
I knew he was against me. I remember he went against me on Twitter too. So
well, HP's always against you, but this time in particular. Short answer, yes. Long answer, yes.
Well, what are they answering? If he is going to go in, or if he's going to be a first ballot?
I'm saying lock. I'm saying first ballot Hall of Famer. That's what I would take Joey and HP's comments to mean. Guys, you're watching live. We are live on YouTube, on Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook right now. If you want to chime in and make sure we get that correct, if we have it wrong, but. Okay, here we go. Joey, first ballot. Take that.
Ballot, take that. I like the.
Also from Joey, huge points down for the Bradley shirt. Go Braves tonight. Always. Once a Brave, always a Brave.
On a 6-game win streak, I believe.
Shout out to the alma mater.
Oh, yeah.
So I want to hear your argument for why he's not first ballot. Let's go a little further into that.
I mean, you gave the stats, and there's a lot of different goalies to me that have better numbers than that. I get it. He's third overall in save percentage. What we say, 12 overall in goals against average. What do you say, like 33rd in overall all-time wins, right?
33rd in wins, but wins again are a team stat. That's
again, but we need to get the whole.
Point.
That's a whole argument we can get into. Like these team stats, they help you get into the Hall of Fame. Cups help you get into the Hall of Fame. And if we're going off team stat and we look at personal hardware, I think one of the arguments was he's won the Jennings, twice?
He just had one Jennings win.
So he had one Jennings. So if we're going to go off personal trophies and everything like that, I mean, right away, I come up with Corey Crawford, who had 2 Jennings. He didn't have a Vezina, but gets in. What do we got? HP gets in at some point, possibly first. But see, there you go. See, he's leaning more towards me. I do think he gets in. I just think it's going to depend on now 5 years from now. What are the names that are on that ballot 5 years from now that pop in there that could go ahead of him? That's where my hesitation is.
Well, we do know that Lundqvist retiring this year, he would also be on the same year of first year of eligibility. And if you're going to sit here and try and tell me that Lundqvist is not,
I'm not going to tell. No, Lundqvist is absolutely a first ballot Hall of Famer. But I want to check the numbers for Lundqvist versus Tuukka, because obviously the only difference. And look,
Henrik Lundqvist is 6th on the wins list with 459 and 887 games. Tuukka Rask 308 wins and 564. So considerably shorter career, injury kind of shortening things as well. But on the flip side, Lundqvist, no cup, Tuukka Rask has a cup. And while he wasn't the starting goaltender on that cup run, he was still on the team, still part of that season.
Fun thing.
That's a factor there that we have to consider as well.
What is happening?
What's that? We're getting some sort of interference here, so I'm just going to talk over whatever Joel is doing in the background. Did you get an ad playing or something in the background?
Did, yeah.
Is that what that was? What you were looking at?
I couldn't exit it out. That was weird. Anyway,
speaking of ads, we are looking for show sponsors. So if you want to get your brand on the show, we are not above being corporate sellouts. We absolutely would love to have sponsored segments.
I will absolutely be a corporate sellout. I don't care.
Send us a message at Podsnipe Celly on Twitter, and let's make something happen.
Yeah, but now back to the goalie talk. Quick, fun question. There is actually technically Tuukka Rask in save percentage is actually tied for second because there's a two-way tie for first.
Well, yeah. So, he would be third then if the other two are tied for first.
Is that how that works?
Yep.
No. Well, all right, fair. Either way, they're tied for now. What is that tie? Who are those two ties? I just want to have fun a little bit here.
I know this one.
Are you looking at it right now?
I'm not looking at it right now.
Okay, all right.
It would be Dominik Hasek, who is
That's
my favorite
easy.
goalie of all time,
Yeah,
and I think
easy.
arguably, I think he's probably the best goaltender of all time. And then Ken Dryden, Montreal Canadiens.
You are correct. Had a boy. But
I know
anyway,
my hockey stats.
I know. I think he will get into the Hall of Fame. I don't know if this is going to go across every single sport. I feel like it's getting slightly. I'm okay with this too, by the way. I think it's getting a little easier to get into all the 4 major sport Hall of Fames, other than baseball, but we won't get into that.
Baseball is still a different case there.
Yeah, Barry Bonds is a Hall of Famer. I don't really care what anybody says. Anyway.
And that, going back to our Super Bowl talk earlier, there's been a lot of talk over the last few days of is Matt Stafford a Hall of Famer?
Which there has been. I thought that was going to be our lead up into this talk because I think yes.
Another interesting take there. Had I been a little more awake, that might have been the segue that we could have come up with. But
hey,
Joey's saying either way, if he gets in first ballot or not, it seems he is a lock to get in. Okay.
Then fine. Then yes, I can concede to that. He is a lock to get into the Hall of Fame. I took originally when I saw the tweet, I came back at you because I was like, hold on. I don't know if he's first ballot. But again, it's going to depend. Like if they're going to only do they have a cap on inductees each ballot?
That's a good question.
Because I think they let in, if they do they only choose 2 goalies plus X amount of skaters, or is it just kind of like this is the ballot and it's just this hard number and that's who's going in? It doesn't matter what their position is. I think there is a cap, but it's kind of big if I remember correctly. I think it's 7. No, it's not that big, I guess. But regardless,
I'm still looking to see what the rules are here.
You can look it up, but regardless, you're right. Henrik Lundqvist retired this year too, and I'm gonna look up the stats, but I think just off the top of my head, knowing what I know, I'm putting Henrik in first before I'm putting in Tuukka. And yeah, that goes against something because Tuukka has a cup. But that's another argument. Tuukka has a cup, but how did he win that cup? He didn't. I'm not saying he didn't contribute or deserve it, but he was the backup goaltender when they won that cup. Then the next 2 times that the Bruins could have won a cup, he was the starter and they lost.
Okay, so here's I got for the Hockey Hall of Fame here. In the player category, a maximum of 4 male inductees and 2 female inductees each year. In the builder category, a maximum of 2 inductees. If no candidate is duly selected in the referee or linesman category, or 1 if a candidate is duly elected from that category. So you would have at most 8 per year.
But it doesn't cap it by position.
Right. It doesn't. So you could get 4 goalies going in 1 year.
Okay. So then in that case, then maybe. But
which if Marc-Andre Fleury retires this year and maybe
Fleury is an absolute first ballot lock.
Well, Joey brings this one up too, where you got Pekka in the bunch, Pekka Rinne. Is he eligible around the same time? Not saying he'll get in, but so Pekka Rinne did retire at the end of last season. So I think earlier, right? with when this would fall, potentially, you would have Rinne, Rask, and Lundqvist all on the same ballot at the same time.
But do they do 5 years from your retirement or 5 seasons? Because he would technically fall into last season.
That's another good question.
So there's a lot of different unknowns we got to figure out there. Because then that could mean Rinne goes up 1 year prior.
Must have not played in a professional or international hockey game during any of the 3 playing seasons prior to his or her election.
Oh, it's only 3.
Yeah.
Am I
which
thinking
in the
5
past,
for NFL?
Yeah, NFL is 5. I think baseball is 5 too.
Okay, I thought it was just across the board, so it's only 3. Okay.
But in the past, hockey has waived at times for certain members to be inducted automatically.
All right.
I'm not saying that Rask is in that. I'm not saying Lundqvist is in that category either to waive the 3-year wait period. The players that they've done that for are like Gretzky, Bobby Orr, really the top of the top players. And that's not to say that those guys aren't the top of the top players. They are, but not to the point where you would waive the waiting period.
Right. You got to look at too. I think you have to also look at like games played involved there too. Like I think Jeremy, our buddy Jeremy, made a point like, does Jonathan Quick get in? I say yes. He's kind of fallen off. He probably should have retired a couple of years ago, but he absolutely gets in. With a Conn Smythe and 2 cups alone, also kind of ruling. Like how many Vezinas does he have? 2, 1 or 2, I think.
I think just 1.
It's probably just 1. I think he was runner-up for like another 2.
Yeah, we'll go to the Wikipedia page here.
Yeah.
But again, it's the international component there. Actually, we were both wrong. No Vezinas for Jonathan Quick.
Man, he got the Corey Crawford treatment then.
Well, again, like we've been talking about, there were so many good goalies from this era that with everybody competing, not to mention that at the end of the term for all of these goalies, then you have Andrei Vasilevsky in Tampa Bay, who is kind of leading the charge of that next wave of goaltenders. You have Sergei Bobrovsky, who up and down, kind of all over the board, but when he is on his game, he is among the best.
One of the best.
We've
absolutely.
done all this talk, and we haven't even brought up Carey Price yet as in this conversation, which
that's true.
There's another one that really, I mean, we are kind of in the golden age of goaltenders right now. And
that's easy.
Looking at what's coming down the pipeline, I mean, there are a lot of good goaltenders who are waiting in the wings. We're seeing guys like Spencer Knight. In Chicago's pipeline, Drew Comessa is one that I've really got my eye on. Jesper Wallstedt with Minnesota Wild. There's a lot of really good goaltending prospects out there right now. Yaroslav Askarov with Nashville. That's where he was drafted 2 years ago. These are guys that, okay, here we go. HP, the number 1 cop on the force. He had to get that one in there. Anytime we mention
You're off the case, Bobrovsky.
HP is all over it. HP has a Bobrovsky jersey, I'm pretty sure. It's pretty sweet.
I love that.
Joey brings up another good point here. Something to note, too, is that it's the Hall of Fame, not the Hall of Very Good. With that said, some of these goalies are Hall of Fame, but some fall in the Hall of Very Good.
That's a very good point. Like, I'm not going to lie. I'd make an argument that Pecorine ends up falling into the Hall of Very Good.
Maybe not. Again, I'm looking at with the international element there too.
Well, no, and I get that
because he did have a pretty good international career.
That's true. I mean, but this is the NHL Hall of Fame.
No, it's the Hockey Hall of Fame.
It's just the straight up hockey.
It is not limited to the NHL.
Man, interesting.
So
interesting. All right. Well, either way,
there is that.
David Drums, my boy. Crawford was clutch in the playoffs, pretty average. And that's wrong. He was, for the most part, very damn good in the regular season. But as Dan mentioned, he was always overshadowed by.
Right. He was good, but he didn't stand out compared to his colleagues during the regular season. Now, playoffs, different animal. Pretty darn good playoff goaltender. But
pretty darn good. Understatement of the friggin' day.
You know what I mean.
Yeah. How do you do against your Wild?
We're not going to talk about that. We're going to segue. I think
we're going to segue.
It's time to bring up some trade deadline names to watch here.
This is going to be fun.
Yesterday, this is going to be fun.
Let's cover Tyler Toffoli first because that's an official thing.
Yep. So we have Tyler Toffoli going from the last place Montreal Canadiens to 1 point out of first with 3 games in hand. Calgary Flames, a force to contend with in the Pacific. Joel, first, I want to get your reaction to seeing the Toffoli trade, and we're about 6 weeks out from the trade deadline. What is your takeaway from the Toffoli trade?
I mean, I meant to do. I'll look this up live. I want to look up Toffoli's stats because I think my initial reaction was, did Calgary way overpay? The first rounder, what's his name? Something Pitlick, right?
Yeah, Pitlick.
Pitlick
was part of that
Pitlick,
deal.
first round pick, and then a prospect, right?
Pitlick reunion in Montreal too.
Right.
Rem Pitlick was already there. They got him off waivers from Minnesota earlier this year. Tyler going over in this trade, and then there's a third Pitlick that's been drafted and I think is playing college hockey. Might be at the University of Minnesota, but there are 3 Pitlicks that are all in the Montreal system. So that part is pretty cool.
Yeah, and I look at so Tyler Toffoli's stats as of this year alone off that trade. He's got 9 goals and 17 assists. He's a -8. I get it. He was playing in Montreal, so that probably doesn't help.
I'm surprised he's only a -8 with how bad Montreal has been this year.
Which is, and again, Toffoli's been a pretty damn good player for as long as we can remember. He was that upstart kid in LA
Cup winner with the
Kings.
And
their second
clutch goals with the Kings too. He had some big.
Well, he's
not to bring up any bad memories for you with those playoff series between LA and Chicago. I mean, there's only one of the two that is a bad memory. those were really good playoff series. And that's what it was the West was a bloodbath to get through Chicago, LA.
And the East was just like, hi.
And the East scared. Was okay, you guys go beat up each other, you guys have fun. We'll come into the round healthy and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll come into the round healthy and inevitably lose anyway.
Yeah.
But you're right. And I mean, Toffoli's he's a 30 goal scorer only once, actually, 2015-16. One of our cup years. And other than that, after that, he's kind of fluctuated. So yeah, 2015-16, he broke 30 goals finally. Then he dropped back down to 16. You see it go to 24. 2 years ago, last year, he actually got to 28 goals, 16 assists. So
which was really impressive with the short season.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, also, Montreal was one of those. Montreal was the Cincinnati Bengals last year, really.
Well, I don't like that take. I really don't like that take because last year it was Cincinnati's starting quarterback got hurt. That's a team that's around 500.
No. I'm saying Montreal last year was the Cincinnati Bengals this year. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
No one expected them to make it to the Stanley Cup Finals. No one expected.
Yeah, but just because no one expected Cincinnati to go that far doesn't mean that they were a bad team and that you see the drop off with Montreal this year where they're bottom of the table. Cincinnati is going to be a playoff team next year.
How do we know?
That's the thing.
We could argue, but we don't know that. We don't know that that's the case. I agree with you personally.
Assuming they're healthy, that's a playoff team. Assuming that they're healthy, that's a playoff team next year.
Yeah, and assuming that they address their offensive line. But back to
hockey. They're going to. Let's not kid ourselves.
Hey, man, you never know. There's other stupid NFL franchises that aren't named the Bears.
That's another one for another time.
Anyway, back to hockey. That was kind of my first take. Like, he's a good goal scorer. I get it. A first round pick plus 2 players. Like, I get it. Everyone, any team that is clearly they clearly know they're going to make the playoffs and they think they do some analysis and have the data on, okay, we can make a deep run. Every team that has that is going to overpay for a Tyler Toffoli style player because that maybe puts them over the wall.
Mm-hmm. Well, so the other thing to consider with Toffoli too is he's not on an expiring contract. Toffoli has this year plus 2 more on his deal.
What's his cap?
4.25. Which
that makes sense. So that to me makes sense. That makes sense why they would overpay for him. Then that makes sense.
I don't know that it's an overpay though, because you're getting several years worth of him. I almost wonder if it's an underpay given that you're getting him for the next 2 years. There's probably going to be a little bit of a drop off, but he's 29. Like he's still going to have a couple good years here. He's a solid middle 6 forward. He's not going to jump over Gaudreau, and be playing top line over Gaudreau and Kachuk. But he's a guy who, for a middle 6 scoring depth forward, that's a guy that Calgary needs if they're going to try and win this arms race with Vegas.
I get that. So I think it then boils down to, and this actually is an off-season show I want to have with you on this topic, but we won't talk about it right now. It comes down to me, it's an overpay if they don't go past X round. If you're trading
Again,
away,
I still think it's too soon to say, just because there's still 2 more years on his deal, and they would presumably be getting him for those next 2 years as well. If it's just a rental and he had an expiring deal this year, like some of these other guys we're going to talk about, then yeah, I could see, that's a piece where it's an overpay. If it was just for 1 season of Toffoli, yeah. But because you're getting him for 3, I have a really hard time calling that an overpay.
No, that's a fair point. And I think, I guess my other take too on that would be they were already, Calgary was already scoring goals at a premium, and now you add Tyler Toffoli.
Well, you got to look at what the rest of the teams
there.
around you are doing too. Colorado has 3-4 lines that can score. Vegas, when they have everybody healthy and Mark Stone is off long-term IR, Jack Eichel making his season debut tomorrow night.
Think about this, though. The goal differential, even though Vegas is in first place, the goal differential between them and Calgary is astronomical. The goal differential for Vegas is plus 19, and Calgary is already at plus 44 without Tyler Toffoli in the lineup.
Wait, say that again?
Calgary is at a plus 44 goal differential. Mm-hmm. Vegas is only at a plus 19.
You know what the difference is there? It's not the goal scoring. It's Jacob Markstrom. League best 8 shutouts. No other goaltender in the league has 4.
That's true.
I should say nobody has more than 4. There are a couple who are at 4.
And Vegas has had
basically doubled the field.
Yeah, and if we're comparing him to Vegas, Vegas has had a little trouble with goaltending. Robin Lehner now injured, but also not really doing Robin Lehner things this year either.
Yeah, he's kind of been a little inconsistent there.
But I kind of want to get, so that was our first true big trade deadline move. I want to get into some speculation.
Yeah, this is the fun part. We get to recklessly speculate here.
We don't have to back this up with anything other than maybe a tweet or so from a blue check mark analyst. And I think that's the most fun. But what's a name on, I want to start this off. We can go names back and forth. We don't have to dive
Do you want to start with our team specifically or just players in general?
I would personally like to do that just because I'm plugged into the entire NHL trade deadline chatter, but this far out, because we're 5 weeks, 6 weeks out?
We're 6 weeks. 6 weeks from the deadline.
Right, so 6 weeks out, I'm a little more plugged in early on to a lot of the Hawks chatter, especially this year. I'm assuming especially you guys, we have 2 different chatters. We're sellers, you guys should be buyers.
We are, and that's one of them that I wanted to talk about that HP brought up here. Is Claude Giroux
to the
Minnesota Wild. There's kind of been some talk that the teams that Giroux would want to go to would be Colorado, Minnesota, and there was one other team in the mix. Now the issue there is Giroux's contract. He is on an expiring deal.
If he goes to Colorado, that's not fair.
8.25 mil cap hit. So what would more than likely need to happen is you're getting a third team involved to help retain cap hit along the way. Kind of like what we saw with Tampa Bay last season, where they were able to get David Savard added to the roster for 25% of his cap hit. Foligno to the Bruins, I think, Foligno to Boston was, I think, the same sort of deal where they worked out another team in there to retain some of the cap hit to be able to make the cap money work, which really a smart way to do that. And I think you almost have to do that for Giroux. The only way I could see the Wild getting in on Giroux, though, is if Chuck Fletcher, the GM of Philadelphia, who used to be the Wild's general manager, cuts his old team and deal and maybe takes a little bit of maybe a future considerations type approach as well. Like, hey, I'll give you this deal to get Giroux there, but then later on, you've got to overpay for somebody next time you come knocking on a trade call. Which, if I'm Billy Guerin, I do that immediately. You bring in a solid center who's 60% in the faceoff dot this year, a guy who can score, a guy who's been to the playoffs, has that experience, working with a Wild team that presumably he would slot in between Matt Boldy and Kevin Fiala, which Boldy, a 4-point night last night, first career hat trick, 14 points in 13 games, playing his way into the Calder conversation.
I'm going to give you another slow your roll there. Not slow your roll on that kid's going to be damn good. I would be excited to have him, but slow your roll on the Calder Trophy talk.
I mean, I understand. Part of the issue is he got called up later in the season than Sider, than Lucas Raymond, than Trevor Zegras, but
I am almost the complete opposite of ever saying that's not fair to the players that have played all season. If Boldy goes off and ends up putting up 60 points in half a season,
that's where he's at. He is on pace for 67 points. If he stays where he's currently at now to the end of the season.
The problem is inevitably, and this is coming from an eternal optimist, he's going to come back down to earth. I'm sorry that doesn't mean your team is going to.
Maybe not. No, I agree. It's not an indictment on the Wild. It's not an indictment on him as a player. You go through streaks, but if there is value to be had on Calder Trophy betting, which there always is, I think he is a decent value play to sneak into that conversation. Looking at awards futures right now, I'm trying to get the odds called up here.
I'd put
right now
to win 500. That's cool.
The fact that I'm having to scroll for plus 2,500.
Okay, so
the favorite is Lucas Raymond at 225 and Zegras at 250.
Yeah, obviously.
That's solid value.
I'm honestly, this is a total different take from the trade deadline. We can talk about this later, but I think this year's Calder might not even be decided by points. It might end up getting decided by making a name for yourself, and that is exactly what Trevor Zegras has done.
Yeah, that's fair too. Some other players that I've got my eye on, I think potentially if John Klingberg wants out of Dallas, that's a team that they're kind of hurting right now, and Dallas is kind of stuck as a franchise. They're not good enough to go over the top and go all the way, but they have way too much talent to try and bottom out. Kind of like where the Wild have been over the last couple of years as well. And Klingberg has mentioned that he wants out. He does have a little bit of an injury history, but he was Dallas's top defender for a couple of years before Miro Heiskanen got there and kind of changed things up.
The biggest thing
Klingberg, a great blue line offensive option and relatively affordable too.
Well, relatively affordable because him and Dallas they still haven't been able to work out a long-term deal, and that ultimately might force him out of there. So then that means you get a trade. There's really no number on it, so you could potentially do a trade and sign and trade type of thing. And I think it'd be worth your guys' while to decide if Klingberg doesn't want too much money. But I mean, guys.
But let me back up for a moment. That's not necessarily a for the Wild. That is an I would like.
Oh, I thought that was for the Wild.
That is an I would like that, but also I understand that provides some problems for the Wild with Dumba and Addison, and who do you take out of that rotation? Because there's a logjam defensively in the Wild pipeline right now, which is a good problem to have. But they have, I would argue, their top 8 defensemen in the organization, top 8 or 9, all pretty much locked in right now. So adding Klingberg, while I think would be an awesome get for Minnesota, it's not quite an organizational fit.
He's only
but it is one that I think top teams need to be calling on Klingberg if they're looking to add a defenseman at the deadline.
He's a $4.25 million cap hit.
Yeah, so that's really affordable for this year. You can make that work easy, and if you get Dallas to retain some of that too, you're golden.
Oh,
let's talk Hawks though. Let's segue to that.
Yeah, because so obviously we're going to be sellers, and I think the biggest thing is there's the biggest talk I got to cover first is like the untouchables, and I feel like there's always different lists. That list could be, I've seen that list be 3 players long. I've seen that list be 5 players long, 6, 7. But there's always kind of the common denominators in every list I'm seeing. And I don't know if you've heard of Frank Saravelli. I'm sure you have. Yeah, he's huge. So I trust him, and he's been pretty much on it the last couple of days if we're going to go by a recency bias. And his most recent, that's actually not that recent, but it's January 20th. But either way, his big thing he came out with first was that the only untouchables are Kane, Taves, and Seth Jones. 4K. Now, there's been some other lists, and actually I retweeted one of those lists. Let me double check where it's at. The untouchables, to me, if I take, and this is me taking out my heart, like this is just, these guys are untouchable for a plethora of different reasons. So I hope I get disagreed with because I can explain those reasons. Kane and Taves, I think, are still untouchable. Solely for the fact, not just because, like, yes, I know I don't ever want to see them leave, but at the same time, you're not going to get the return you want for either of them that you could have gotten in 2017 or 2018 even. So why get rid of them, especially if they still have their no movement clauses and if they're both willing, and it sounds like they want to stay here for some sort of rebuild. So why trade them? You're going to be bad anyway. So what's the point? I would rather be bad and work our way back up to the top with them in the locker room and with them on the ice to keep us marketable while we're still not that good. Keep them. I obviously think Alex DeBrincat is absolutely untouchable unless someone's given us a king's ransom for him. I don't think you get rid of him.
I think he could command a king's ransom this year, looking at the numbers he's putting up too.
I absolutely agree. He put up his 28th last night. He's going to break 30 again, and he has broken 30. I might get checked on this, but I'm pretty positive he's broken 30 all 5 of his seasons in the league, including the shortened season last year. But I could be wrong about last year's shortened season.
Last season 32. In 2019 and 20, he only had 18. Rookie season, he had 28. So, but again, 28. It's not technically 30, but it's
close. Yeah, 18. That was so 2019-20. That was when COVID hit. So obviously,
right. But he was 18 goals in 70 games. If you strap that to 82, 12 goals over 12 games down the stretch.
Something he could do.
Could he do it? Yes. Would he have?
Either way, and that's I don't want to slow your roll. But all right. Anyway, I don't want to take too much time there. I don't want to take too much time.
So,
there, but
players, the Hawks, you mentioned that they're sellers. Who do you think are players that
are getting sold?
Let me start with players the Hawks should move, and then go to players the Hawks will move, because I think there might be a little bit of a difference there.
A little bit. Should move Marc-Andre Fleury if he wants to go, because I think it's just in his best interest. He ain't going to win a cup here this year. So if he wants to win one more cup before he hangs up the skates, and I know just from a lot of the guys I follow, they are actively working with him to see where he wants to go. He actually, the Washington Capitals actually made some offers, and there were some calls about Fleury. I don't know what was offered, but Fleury flat out said no. I will not go to the Capitals because of my history with them. With the Penguins.
So petty.
It's awesome, and I love it. I know.
And I've got some Caps sympathies. You know, my fiance, that's our hometown team. You know, so we got a lot of love for the Caps in this house. The pettiness of Fleury to say nope, I'm not going to go there. I think you can't not laugh at that. I think
I love that, and I'm totally for that. Like, if I'm a player in the NHL and of his caliber, if I'm this star player in the NHL and I grew up in Chicago, if you're going to ask me like, hey, the Blues want to make an offer for you, are you willing to go? Absolutely not. Send me to Arizona before you send me to the Blues.
I liken it to when Brett Favre came to the Vikings. Like, I couldn't physically cheer for him. Like, yes, he's our guy now. He killed us for years. I still don't understand why Favre chose Minnesota, but
he wanted to come to you too.
He did, and that's the weird thing about it. So it's a little bit of a different scenario there, but like I can't. Like, it's so weird to think about going to, like, here's the guy who beat you for years, and now you're trying to go pick him up late in his career. It's weird to me. So Fleury is on your list of should be traded if the right deal is there. Who else is on that list?
There, I think this one would hurt me, but probably Calvin DeHaan is another big name there. You can get a damn good return for him.
Yeah, I think he's out the door.
Yeah, and I mean, he loves it here too. I mean, that's the thing. They all love it here, but like at this point, like, these are business decisions. We're not in the running to win a cup or anything. So why just rip the Band-Aid off and start selling some people.
Well, and he's on an expiring deal too, so he could potentially re-sign with Chicago this summer after a cup run somewhere.
Yep, and he's an unrestricted free agent as of after this year. He's got a $4.5 million cap hit. But I mean, he still puts up 20 plus minutes a night. That man eats pucks for breakfast, lunch, and dinner all damn day.
He should be right around 4 to 5 on that next cap hit. I would think he probably comes in about 4.75 for like another 3-4 years,
something like that. Yeah, and actually, if I'm not wrong, he's in the top 10 in block shots in the league, I think.
Either block shots or block shots per 60, because we were looking at this the other day as we were talking about it.
Let me see. I'm gonna look it up.
It is block shots per 60. It's like 8 point something block shots per 60.
Right.
It's an insane stat for where he's at. So much further ahead of everybody else on the team.
So I think he's a big one that gets moved. Again, and it's all like doing favors for these guys too. Like Calvin DeHaan's a damn good player, but he's 30. He probably doesn't want to be a part of a rebuilding team. So get him to a contender that can put them over the top.
I got it. Let me hit you with it here. 8.20 blocks per 60.
Yep.
No other player who's ahead of him on the list has played more than 20 games. DeHaan has played 45. So
dude's a machine.
If you want to talk about the standard of playing half the games, I would call him the league leader in block shots per 60.
Yeah, exactly. He's so phenomenal, and that's why I would hate to see him leave. But I think that's why he ends up leaving, because we can get a pretty damn good return for a team looking for a rental defenseman, potentially even longer than that too. It's only 30. So Fleury and DeHaan for sure. I've seen some, like I think I saw it on TSN, like Sam Lafferty, but he's a guy, whatever. Sure, get us a 6th round pick for him, whatever. So the other name, now this isn't in the should. This actually falls. Well, those are both should and I think will. Are all. So those two, I think they will be gone unless, I do think DeHaan for sure. He's probably gone. Fleury, I would think for sure as well, but if for some reason Fleury's just like, I want to stay here, then he's not gone. But I don't know. I mean, he's such like a nice person, and he loves his stability, and he's not gonna, he's done it all. Like, he doesn't really have to accomplish anything else other than some more numbers for his personal stats. I mean, it's up to him, but I'm assuming he'd want to go but he's got a specific list of teams. In fact, and the Twitter account retweeted this, and I told you a couple episodes ago, and now there's some smoke. It's looking like now Vegas might be very interested in a Marc-Andre Fleury reunion, especially with Leonard being hurt.
If I'm Fleury and the team that traded me away after I won the Vezina for pennies on the dollar.
Pennies on the dollar. I agree.
And I found out through Twitter that they traded me, and they didn't have the decency to call and let me know, hey, we're trading you. And I had to find out through Twitter that I got traded. I would never want to go back to that team. I get it. Vegas is a contender. I get it. You had a couple very, very good runs with Vegas. The locker room. To me, that would be something that if you're doing that, you'd be doing it for the players on the ice.
Yep.
But I wouldn't be offended at all if Fleury gives a middle finger to Vegas and says, the way you treated me on the way out, there's zero chance I'm going back. That's just my 2 cents on it.
No, it's fair. The other couple on the should list, this is the specific should. I don't know if they will, but should Jake McCabe get him the hell out of here?
If you can, who's going to buy him at this point?
Well, the thing
as bad a season as he's had.
Oh well, right. I mean, one bad season out of what he was supposed to be, and he actually had that.
He's never really been that guy, though.
No, he's for sure, but he was going to come in and maybe be that fringe 4th, 5th, defenseman, and now. Well, for us, 3rd, 2nd even, but in general, I think he can slide into a bottom D pairing and make you pretty deep. I don't really personally like him, but if you have that good a depth at defense, like he's not bad. He had a great game last night, but 1 out of 42 games ain't could cut it. The other couple players that are on that list too, there was an untouchables list that included Kirby Dach and Dominic Kubalik.
Doc intrigues me. That is one that
I'm saying that was the untouchables. There was
okay.
like a
never mind.
6
I
or 7.
misunderstood. I misunderstood.
There was like a 6 or 7 player list, and that I saw. I can't remember who tweeted it out. I'd have to find it again.
I think Doc's got to be untouchable.
Yeah, I would say so. He's only 21. We got to give the kid a chance. He's definitely regressed a little bit, but he's 21, and Colleton clearly did no favors for him, bringing him up when he probably shouldn't have been brought up. So I'm going to give him a chance. I haven't given up on him in the slightest, but I've just seen some of those rumblings going around that, what if Doc gets thrown into the scenario here? I don't know. I'm not giving up on the kid at 21. And we're about to move him to the wing. But what I want to finish that thought, Dominic Kubalik absolutely is not untouchable. If anything, trade him and get back one hell of a return.
I could see that. Speaking of things being on the move, we got to move into Wednesday night picks. We got about 15 minutes left of the show here, so we're going to go through these a little quick. We had HP joining the show last week. He makes his mark on the scoreboard. Joel and HP, you guys both 1-2 last week. I went 2-1. The difference being that Calgary Flames pick a 6-0 shutout win over Vegas. That was the difference for me. You can see the all-time numbers there on the screen, but let's kind of just jump right into things here. With the early game of the night, Minnesota Wild -145 at the Winnipeg Jets +125. Joel, you know I'm taking my team. You know I'm taking the Wild. Who do you got in this matchup?
This isn't a discussion point. I'm taking the Wild.
Well, okay. Let's back up for a minute though and talk about Winnipeg here, because yes,
we just beat them last night. We'll preface that.
Winnipeg beat Minnesota last week. That game saw Marcus Foligno get suspended for after a fight. He threw a knee on the Winnipeg player, served his 2-game suspension, and it just so happens his first game back will be against Winnipeg again. So this game could turn into a little bit of a gong show, especially in Winnipeg. That's going to be a rowdy crowd. I see why the line is as close as it is, given where they're at in the standings. And it's a good rivalry game too.
Yeah.
I still just got to go Wild though.
I have to go Wild too, especially last night. The Hawks played in Winnipeg. We ended up beating them. 3-1? Yeah.
Yep.
Again, Fleury was outstanding. DeBrincat getting himself his 28th. And then who got the empty netter? I forgot who got the empty netter. Oh, Kane got a goal last night too. So his 12th of the year. So that was in Winnipeg, and we shocked the hell out of them. So I think they're sitting there like, what the hell just happened? So I think the Wild are going to take advantage of that. You guys are also 8-1-1 in your last 10, by the way.
Yeah, we're kind of rolling right along here.
Yeah, you're rolling very much right along.
Rolling right along into our next pick here too. Or did you have something you were going to?
No, I'm good. I'm taking the Wild, and I'm even jumping and taking them on the puck line too.
Ooh, I like that. Say more. Florida Panthers +115 at Carolina Hurricanes -135.
I want to watch this game.
This could be an Eastern Conference Finals preview. I really think that could be the case. Joel, I went first on the last one a bit. I'll let you go first on this one.
Oh man, it is tough. This is probably no, they're all pretty tough, honestly. Calgary is on a 6-game win streak, by the way. So they're hot. And as hot as as hot as the entire season, really. And Florida is 7-3 in their last 10. Obviously, Calgary 8-2 in their last 10. Man, that is
Carolina, not Florida at Carolina here, not
Carolina. I'm sorry, not
Calgary's the next game we're going to talk about.
My bad. Yeah. So I went ahead. I was
early.
I was looking at my sharp rank. My bad. So Carolina, 6-3-1. Yeah, it's man, this is a damn good game. I'm probably gonna. Oh man, it is so tough. I'm gonna stick with the wagon that has been Florida. I know they're actually not even the favorite, but that's good money right there. In that case, if you're telling me Florida is a dog, give me Florida.
Yeah, Carolina has kind of been all over the board this season. They've had some games where it's, they'll blow teams out of the water and then they'll lose to the Ottawa Senators. Like that's one of the losses in their last 10. So they're kind of a little too all over the board for me right now. They're still a very, very good hockey team.
It's going to be an awesome game.
Yeah, I'm also taking Florida. They were my pick to win the cup at the beginning of the year. They're my pick to win tomorrow night. Just makes a lot of sense, I think. So we'll go with Florida there. Anaheim Ducks plus 160 at Calgary Flames minus 185. Now feel free to talk about Calgary all you want.
Right, now I can talk about Calgary. It's a good game. Like I said, Calgary is rolling on a 6-game win streak, so Calgary is not Carolina. My fault. Everyone can yell at me. I take the beatings. But obviously Anaheim, super exciting to watch. And I feel like they're just in every game. Like, I mean, they've fallen now to 4th in the Pacific, but they're always pretty much in every game. And I feel like this is one of those trap games. Like, you're riding a 6-game win streak, but Anaheim is a scrappy, decent team. And they got the skill. We know that.
The over-under for that game is 5.5, and you look at the goaltending matchup of Gibson and Markstrom, you might want to take the under on that one.
Oh, absolutely. I would agree. Definitely take the under. In fact, I'm going to take the under. Thank you. But I feel like it's been a theme for my picks. I got to roll with the hot hand. You're on a 6-game win streak. You're feeling yourself in all sorts of ways, and Anaheim hasn't really been anything special. Their last 10, 4-4-2. So I got to go Calgary.
Yeah, I'm going Calgary too. Home favorite. I think they're the better team offensively, defensively. I think that crowd seeing Tyler Toffoli give him the welcome. He may jump on the scoreboard there in that one. That'd be a nice little.
That's a fun little bet to jump on. An anytime goal by Tyler Toffoli in his debut. I would punch that
home debut, because they're actually wait.
They're not playing tonight, are they?
No, they're home tonight. Never mind. I'm sorry. Take that back. They're home against Columbus tonight. So
yes,
game
they are.
in
Okay, so
home.
never mind.
You know what? I'm gonna get a little weird here, because for Calgary, that is the second game of a back-to-back, and Anaheim's coming in fresh. So just to be different, I'm gonna take the fresh legs with Anaheim over Calgary. But again, if I'm betting on that one, I would probably go Ducks on the puck line. Just get the plus 1.5 there. I think it's going to be a 1-goal game. I'll go Anaheim, but I don't feel great about it. I'll put it that way. And then final game of the night, Colorado Avalanche at Vegas Golden Knights. Even money right now. Jack Eichel debut for Vegas. There is so much good hockey to watch tomorrow. Like, I'm so excited for tomorrow's NHL action.
Yeah.
And the best part is they staggered the starts too. So Wild Winnipeg is 7:08. Florida, Carolina, 7:38. These are all Eastern times. 9:38 for Anaheim, Calgary, and then 10:08 Colorado, Vegas. They have this staggered in such a way, like the NHL schedule finally got it right. We need to take like 5 seconds to just appreciate that they finally figured out how to stagger games on a night and load it up with some talented games.
And TNT's about to get some ratings with the fact that the early game is the Florida-Carolina game, and then the late game is this game, which is that is fantastic. I will be staying up to watch this game for sure. Because what is it, a 9:00 puck drop? Yeah. So, and also the TNT broadcast is just a blast. Man, this is very tough, especially with Eichel's debut coming in. But again, I don't know if he's going to make that huge of an impact when he's been off for, what has it been, like 3 months?
Well, even back to last March was when he stopped playing with Buffalo for Eichel.
Right.
So
it's
been a long time since nearly a year.
He's going to have to get his legs under him.
But he's been skating to make sure that he will have his legs under him and have his
live game action is a different animal.
It is,
though, man.
It is. That's fair. Should mention as well, no Mark Stone in the lineup for Vegas. He's on long-term
IR. Yeah, it's so they can go ahead and get Eichel in there.
I mean, he has been banged up for a while, so there is that. But
you know what they're probably doing.
They're
gonna do what we used to do.
Nice and rested and healthy for the playoffs, and then be good to go.
Where there is no salary cap. And okay, there you go. He's back. Again, though, Colorado's still 9-0-1 in their last 10. Like, they're still just riding. It says 2-game win streak, but if you take out the overtime loss, or was it a shootout? That was overtime. You take that out, like, they've pretty much won their last. What is that? I think.
Yeah, that's 19 of your last 20 possible points. That's
exactly.
That's getting it done.
That's huge. So I got to stick with my boys. I've stuck with them. Vegas is my secondary team, but I got to go against them and go with Colorado. Colorado has not failed me yet in these picks.
When I have picked for Vegas on
All
Wednesday night picks, they have won. When I have picked against Vegas, they have lost. I am really torn on what to do on this one, and I think when in doubt, go with the home team. I'm going to take Vegas. I'll be different on this one too. I'll take Vegas at home in what should be a thrilling game. All these games tomorrow are really must-see TV, but especially Florida, Carolina, and Colorado, Vegas. That's must watch.
I'll throw an extra on there. I would, even though I'm taking Colorado, this doesn't have to be for our picks, but for anyone listening that wants to try and play that puck line, I would take Vegas on the puck line. I think they cover.
So to recap, Joel taking Colorado, I'm taking Vegas. Let's see, did we both go no, I went Anaheim, you went Calgary. We both went Florida on the road. We both went Minnesota on the road.
-1.5 too.
Those are your Wednesday night picks. 2 minutes for roughing. Joel, is it you or is it me this week? Who is going to go for it?
I think you should go for it. There really hasn't been anything that's pissed me off in the last couple of weeks. So I've accepted that my hockey
team.
That's
nice.
Good.
That's a good thing.
You know,
let's go ahead and get 2 minutes on the clock here. We do have another show that is coming up next that we want to give a shout out to. In the Green Bets, it's the golf show with the Sports 2.0 network. Your hosts, Justin Onken and Grant Bale. That should be a great show for all of you betting fans. But since they're right up against us, we'll put 2 minutes on the clock and we'll get underway here.
You ready?
All right, let's do it.
Alrighty. 3, 2, 1. Get it.
So for a long time now, we've seen as soon as the Super Bowl is over, there are those people who sprint to Twitter and immediately say, all right, well, on to baseball. Not so much this year. We have run into a bit of a lockout situation with Major League Baseball, and it doesn't cease to amaze me how stupid and how petty these lockouts can be, regardless of sport. You know, we're a hockey show. We've seen lockouts in hockey. They happen. We have seen with baseball lockouts. They happen. But this isn't happening in other sports leagues. You know, when was the last time that you saw the English Premier League have a lockout? When is the last time you saw La Liga have a lockout? When is the last time there was a KHL lockout, for that matter, to stick to hockey? It doesn't really happen outside of North American sports that we get that coverage of. But with baseball, to have over the last couple of years, and I know it does come down to money. That's really what it is. And it's millionaires versus billionaires for who's going to get the bigger cut of the cake. The fact of the matter is, baseball is a game that was founded in the 19th century that is still trying to figure out what it needs to do to be a 21st century game. It's not. Let it be a 19th century game. It doesn't need these improvements to speed things up. It doesn't need, this, that, and the other thing. They brought in the universal DH. Okay, I get it. That's one of many arguing points among these labor disputes. I get that. But at the end of the day, they need to get on the field. They need to shut up and just go play some baseball. That's why you signed up to play the game. That's why you're owning teams. That's why you're signing these $1 million contracts to go play. There's a lot to it. It's not an easy situation. But the fact is, it can be done without a lockout. And the sooner we get players on the field, the better. I hope to hear pitchers and catchers reporting soon.
Well done, and there were some points in there. I didn't actually expect you to go that route. Like, you sounded like you were yelling at the players a little bit.
I can get a lot into a 2-minute discussion, and you give me 2 uninterrupted minutes to rant, we can get a lot of content through.
I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, you saw what Rob Manfred said too, right? Like,
I hate that guy so much.
Oh, Rob Manfred is a piece of shit. There is no other way around it. But my God,
baseball will change for the better the day he's out.
Exactly. He literally mentioned that it's more profitable for you to not own a baseball team. That's what he said at the owners' meetings. I'm like, what the hell are you doing, dude? Like,
he's clueless. He's a clown.
Universal DH shout out.
That'll do it for tonight's show. Thank you to everybody who tuned in live tonight. As a reminder, you can listen on demand on iTunes and Spotify. Give us a follow on Twitter at PodSnipeCelly. We do go live. This will be our new time going forward, is 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock
Central.
So we hope you will join us next week for another great episode. Stay tuned to the Sports 2.0 Network and Noop Sports. In the Green Bets coming up next. For Joel Fernino, my name is Dan Bradley. Enjoy the rest of your night, everybody.
Goodbye.